Welcome everybody to another YouTube Hangout. Super excited to be here again with you. I have a new set of friends, a power couple called the Power Couple of Personal Development. Super excited to have a chat today. Alexi and Preston are joining us from Australia. They're on tour, sharing their wisdom and knowledge and enlightenment, and they're going to, what time is it there, 7:30 in the morning?
It is, nice and early.
We're going to talk about the habits of success and hopefully learn something from these guys. Welcome aboard, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much. Happy to be here.
Ooh, ooh. I love it. That's the intro. So for people who don't know about you and what you're doing yet, give us like the quick intro. Who are Alexi and Preston?
Yeah, so the short answer of that is we are transformational junkies. We are authors. We just wrote a book called Now or Never, which hit the bestseller list in the US, actually. We speak all over the world. We lead transformational and personal development workshops, and we support entrepreneurs in building a body, a somatic body, which means having the actual embodiment piece to what's happening here. Because a lot of people learn head knowledge, but they never actually let it land in the body.
Interesting. So you just opened up a can of worms already there. So what are some of the things we need to be, like, people read books all the time, people watch videos, they go to seminars, like we may be really kind of book smart. How do we take that and start to actually apply and get results in our life and businesses?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, so many people stuff this thing up, and yet they never actually practice it. And the workshops Preston and I do, it's somatic work, which means tapping into the wisdom of the body. And unfortunately, it's not something you can do online. It's something that you have to be in the experience of to truly get the cellular learning. And it's phenomenal what happens when you have a group of leaders in a room and you see how they show up in front of that room on day one. And on day two, by the end of the day, you see a complete shift. They're standing strong. They've let leadership land in their cells. They're grounded, they're breathing, and all of that truly builds a body that people can trust. And that's what's enrolling when it comes to leadership and success.
Yeah, and you know, for those of you who are like, okay, well, I can't go to your damn workshop, so like, how do I do that? It starts with awareness. You know, you can't intervene in a world you can't see. We cannot change what we cannot see. And a lot of people are working on what they can see. And so for us, step number one, and this goes into the success habits, is starting with awareness, because awareness precedes choice. So one would have to really take a deep dive into the places where they try to avoid the most.
Yeah, and what's interesting is when you're in experiential work, what happens is we put you in chaotic situations where you have no mental ability to try and like control how you show up. And it's how you actually show up in the world. And we give you feedback on how you show up real time. So that awareness gives you the choice to say, okay, how do I want to choose to show up when I'm in chaos or when I'm in stress, when I'm in overwhelm, and we build a body to support that. So like Preston was saying, awareness is the step number one. It is the key, because once you see how you're legitimately showing up, not how you intend to show up, but how you're legitimately showing up and you're getting real-time feedback, especially from people in your life on that, then you can choose powerfully to move forward.
Where do you think the biggest disconnect is for people on that, where they feel like they show up a certain way, but they're actually showing up this way? Like, what's that biggest, I know it's a general question, but in general, what do you feel like is some of the biggest,
It's everywhere. Like, a lot of people have the intention that they want to spread love and they want to, you know, be enrolling in their business and they want to support others, but yet the feedback that people are giving them in our workshops and that we're giving them is that they're closed off. They come across as fake or inauthentic. And when you're showing up that way, people don't trust you. Yeah. They're kind of like, I feel like there's a disconnect. I feel like something's between us. And I'm not going to say yes to your business. I'm not going to say yes to your online program because there's something about you that I can't put my finger on that I don't buy it.
Yes. And what that comes down to is trying to get it right.
Yeah.
So many of us are trying to get it right because we've been brought up in a society that has told us over and over and over again to do one thing to get another thing. And so a lot of people unconsciously, this is not a conscious mind thing, the unconscious mind is operating, trying to get it right. And so there's this mask that's showing up in front of them, and that mask is disingenuine and people can read through.
Yeah.
The bullshit meter now, especially with so much stuff that's on the internet, is like,
it's so high.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. So if I'm an entrepreneur and I want to be a visionary and be a team leader and inspire my people, and when things are going good, maybe that's what I do. But then when something happens, kind of urgent crisis, now you turn into like this rageaholic person who you don't want to be, but that is who you are when things are not going right. Like that sounds like you're forcing them into these stressful, painful situations. Like, how do you act? Okay, great. So that's how I act. I don't want to be that person. Now what do I do? You've opened up this giant wound. Now, like, how are you going to fix me?
Yeah, so this brings us to step number 2, which is being radically responsible. And again, you need the awareness first to say, oh, I'm showing up like a raging lunatic in chaos, in your example. And with step number 2, it's going, okay, how am I fully responsible for this? If I was taking 100% responsibility of the entire pie, how did I create this? How did I allow this? How did I perpetuate this situation? And how am I choosing to be the space for chaos? Because in our work in the bridge, we say that you are the bridge to all areas of your life, meaning chaos cannot enter your being unless you build a bridge for it. And that's where radical responsibility comes in, because we see a lot of leaders, especially leaders that we coach and work with, that when shit hits the fan and everything goes awry, what happens is they go, oh, well, this person in my management team isn't doing this, or the economic climate is doing this, and it's always outside of themselves.
Yes.
So we always bring it back to them, because when you're in 100% responsibility, as you know, you have 100% of the power to make a change. So that's really the next thing to do.
And what did you call it? Radical
responsibility.
Radical responsibility. Okay, and then the people who come in and will say, but the economy, the president, my resources, whatever excuse, how do you break through that and say, like, guys, it's all on you? How do you make them feel it? Because they may think it, but like, how do you get them to actually understand that?
Yes. So here's one of the things to understand. We are linguistic beings. So we build with our language. We create worlds with our language. And so one of the things that we support people in understanding is the distinction between being a victim and holding victim consciousness.
Yeah.
And so some people, things do happen. We cannot control what is happening, right? There's certain realities that are, right? And the moment we start arguing with reality, we move into victim consciousness. We move into this, I'm at the effect of the world, and oh, woe is me, right? And a lot of times it doesn't look like victim consciousness, but that's exactly what it is. Whenever you're blaming or complaining, and we say all the time, your complaint is your mission. If you're complaining, that means that you have some part of you that believes there is a better solution for how this gets to be worked out. And so you can be a stand for something and hold the space of love all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are taking us on a trip today. This is not what I expected, but I'm enjoying it, man. This is good. We're getting some live questions. What do I do if I'm only 16? Do you deal with younger people and, like, I guess there's less baggage, but then maybe less confidence? Like, how does this change depending on how old you are, where you are in life?
Yeah, well, the next step, this brings us straight to number 3. The next step is act now. And that means clearing your past and really getting responsible with your past so that you can create clear in the present and move forward powerfully in the future. And for anyone that's young, you guys have an extreme advantage because you have less baggage. You have less crap that you need to move through. You have less conditioning, less programming, less mapping of the world on your psyche. So you're showing up with a cleaner slate. And at 16, if you're watching shows like this, you are like killing it already.
For sure.
And it's really cool, Evan, because I don't know if you've noticed this, but we've noticed in our work that our audience is getting younger. I mean, we're getting 16-year-olds, we're getting 13-year-olds, we're getting 12-year-olds who are watching our stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really powerful to see the generational shift that's happening, where young people are waking up at a lot younger of an age. And they're saying, I'm not buying into the system anymore. The system doesn't work. The old paradigm of go to school, get a good degree, get a good job, get married, have 2.5 kids, it doesn't work. It's not secure anymore. And the world of the entrepreneur is really like picking up right now.
Yes, and that never was secure. And that's the thing that this illusion, this Western contingency plan where we do all of this stuff over there to get some future goodness, like that, none of that stuff actually was true in the first place. And so if you're 16 or 60, our advice is the same. Go have fun.
Yeah.
See what you're made of. Step off the ledge, go too far.
Yeah.
Because it's not about getting there. And that's the issue. So many of us are trying to get high on good, and we're trying to get there. We were, one more hit, I gotta get there, I gotta get good.
I gotta get my first million, then I gotta get 10 million, then I gotta do this and get a private jet.
Which is slavery.
It is.
Then you're still a slave to the jet and everything else. It's not the mountain that we conquer, but the self. And so it's about who you become on the way. It's about where you go in your own consciousness, where you have to go within yourself along that journey. You know, we get so caught up on the destination, but we want the product, but we miss the process. Yeah. And so it's about falling in love with the process.
Yeah, and falling in love with the game of life. And you mentioned the reasons and the excuses, and especially in business, there's so many of them, right? There's so many that stand in between you and your dream life. And Preston and I preach that being unreasonable is where mastery is. And to truly be unreasonable is to truly, like Preston said, see what you're made of, see what you're built for, and stretch yourself out of what you think your limits are.
I like it. I like it. This is great. Speaking of limits, like, let's go deeper into the limits, because a lot of people have the limiting beliefs. Like, I love what you're saying. I want to live a happy life. I want to go and live on the edge and step over sometimes, but whatever, I'm not good enough. I don't have the, like this. How do you address, because it makes sense logically, but they don't feel in their heart. They tell themselves they can't do it until they don't. How do you address somebody's limiting beliefs once they set this big, ambitious goal for themselves?
So we set up micro wins for the macro, because small hinges swing big doors. So it's the little bites daily. Yeah. It's this practice, but lower the bar. A lot of people have the bar so damn high that it's almost it's fantasy, standards. They're holding themselves to something so gigantic that it seems like a huge, task. But if you just lower the bar, and one of the things we help and support entrepreneurs with all the time is reaching for the low hanging fruit. Yeah, meaning reaching for the things that make your heart smile, right? Because you bring you everywhere you go. You are the bridge to all areas of your life. And so if your cup is filled and you're giving from the overflow, if you're having fun, if you're enjoying the process and the journey, that becomes attractive. Winners are attractive. Why? Because their frequency is higher. And you get there by honoring what is, by reaching for what you can reach for, instead of trying to climb the whole damn tree, get up to the top and fall out and break your back.
Yeah, and that goes back to another thing. I think, a lot of people think that they're the only person that has the limiting beliefs. Yeah. A lot of people are in their own world going, oh, well, I feel like I'm unworthy. I feel like I can't do this. Yes. I feel like, who am I to make that happen? And we remind people that all of humanity is being with that conversation. And we also remind people, we know a lot of people that play in the $1 billion level. And they're friends of ours, and they're some of the top wealthiest people in the world, and they still have limiting beliefs, And we remind people that when you're stretching out of your comfort zone, your ego is going to come up and pop up and go, oh God, okay, I got to try and keep you safe. Yes. So I'm going to throw all these limiting beliefs out here to try and keep you in the comfort zone, to keep you small, to hold you back, because you're about to step into a new world. And that world of the unknown is scary for me, says the ego. So know that when you've got the limiting beliefs, it's actually a signpost that you're about to step into something that's really big, that could be really big for your soul to kind of open up and stretch yourself. And again, become that leader that can hold the vision that you want for your life.
Okay. And I'm going to wrap this all up in a bow because she nailed it. It's resistance versus alignment.
Yeah.
Most people are in resistance to what is. What's coming up for them? Oh, limiting belief. Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, resist. I shouldn't be saying that.
Yeah.
You know, Evan is always great. Oh, I should be like Evan. I should be like these. No. See, this is resistance.
Yeah.
When those thoughts come up for me about, oh, you're just another black boy, no one's gonna believe you. Like that stuff comes up for me. The dyslexia, that comes up for me. Oh, you're not as smart as everyone else because you don't read as fast. How dare you be an author when you're dyslexic? No one's gonna read your book. Like that stuff comes up, but when it does, instead of me resisting it, I meet it with love and compassion. And instead of me letting it go, it lets go of me, because everything is passing. Everything is moving, always changing, always flowing. That's the nature of life. But we get in trouble when we try to hold on to it and figure it out and make it wrong.
I love it. So now, how do we turn that from the subconscious to the conscious? Because that voice saying, you're not good enough, whatever, and then saying like, this is a signpost to say, now it's your chance to be a leader. Yes. Our pattern, our like decades of life have taught us that this is scary and come back. How do you make a conscious choice and not fall back into the same pattern that you've lived your entire life to say, you know what, this scary thing is actually my opportunity. Like the obstacle is the way. Like this is my path to be the leader. How do you, it makes sense logically, but how do you even catch yourself in the moment when you're overwhelmed and feeling like you need to back away?
Yeah, so the big thing with overwhelm is you want to breathe. And this is it's such a simple tip.
Start there. Yeah.
It's such a simple tip, but most people are breathing from like here up. And we go, and that actually in the limbic system creates stress and overwhelm. And I mean, we study the body and the internal system and what's happening in our leadership. This is stress and overwhelm. When you drop your breath all the way into your belly, what happens is you actually ground into the earth, you ground into the center point of your body, and you have more movement and more choice. Just like when you see animals on the ground that are so, you know, fluid and flexible and they can jump from here to here like a cat or something. It's because they're grounded in the center point of their body. And most humans are walking around being chest breathers like this, and we wonder why we're so stressed out. So drop your breath into your body. That's the first step in terms of awareness.
Because that brings more oxygen to the brain, and more oxygen equals more choices.
Yeah, and when you have more oxygen, you begin to think clearer. And when you have that clarity of thought, you can go, okay, I see this limiting belief coming up. I am not my thoughts. I am not my thought. I'm gonna let this thing just roll through. Interesting. I have a belief that, in Preston's case, I'm dyslexic, I shouldn't be an author. Interesting. I'm just gonna watch that. And I'm going to move into action regardless of the belief. When you're in action, what happens when you're in the game and you're in the present moment and you're taking steps towards that vision and towards that goal, your limiting belief can still be there. But you're showing the limiting belief what you're committed to. And the problem is most people keep committing to their limiting beliefs and not committing to their vision. So it's being a commitment to the vision, no matter what, being completely unreasonable, no matter what limiting belief is coming up. I'm a commitment to my vision, not you. You can be here, you can be on the sidelines, but I'm in the driver's seat.
I like it. We're getting some live questions. Back to kind of the top about reading books and not actually absorbing them.
Yes.
How do you read books in a smart way? What advice would you give?
Slow down.
Yeah.
So for me, for instance, like this is our book, Now or Never. And even with our book, which I reread, I'll just take 3 sentences and sit with that for a week. Like just read them over and over and over again and just see how I can put them into play and into action in my life. So a lot of people were trying to speed read everything.
I read 500 books this year.
More. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you aren't living it.
Yeah.
And so it's just hot air at that point. And so slow down. That's one of the best tips you could ever do. Slow down to the speed of wisdom.
Yeah.
And it's more important, in my opinion, to take a paragraph or a chapter and have that like living in you than it is to read 700 books and just know a bunch of stuff in your head.
Yeah, and here's the thing, guys, like books are direct access into some really incredible people's brains. And you're getting direct access to their best work, to the best stuff in their heads, because they want to look good in their books. So they're going to put the best stuff in there. And what I'm a reader. I love reading. I've read a ton of books. And what Preston is saying is huge. Do not move on from a chapter or from a paragraph until you are living the work. And nobody cares if you've read 500 or 1,000 books. Who cares? If you're not the embodiment of the work that you've read, then you're wasting a lot of your time reading a bunch of books.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
You might be able to regurgitate the information, but if you're not living it, you're just going to be like, you're going to be a parrot at that point, and nobody's going to follow a parrot.
Yeah. But guys, that's so hard to do. I want to finish this book.
Awesome.
Right?
Cool. Then finish the book. And don't be in resistance to it. Finish the book and don't be in resistance to, because here's the thing. Yes, whatever you read, even if you speed read it, some of that's going to land. And maybe, just like with our parents, how many of you guys have had your parents or your friends tell you something 10,000 times and it didn't land until the 10,001 time?
Yeah.
And so, perfect. I've watched Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls like 100 times.
Oh, yeah,
and every time I watch it, something new pops up.
Yeah.
So perfect. Then read it again.
Yeah. Yeah. And for people who are in a rush in life, we also teach how you do anything is how you do everything. If you're in a rush to get to the end, if you're in a rush to get to the outcome and the result, you're missing the process.
Yes.
And the process is where masters are born.
Yes.
And if you fall in love with the process and stop trying to get to the finish line, that's when you win in life. You become an instant success the moment you fall in love with the process.
Yep.
I love it. I mean, that's a message that we preach to, and it's great to hear it come back in different words and different perspective. I love it. What do you, in terms of taking on knowledge, taking on wisdom, trying to learn and grow and better yourself, do you guys have a recommended habit for people? Like, should this be a part of their morning routine? Do you recommend them spending 20 minutes on themselves, reading a book, maybe not hitting like, I got to hit 100 pages, but like spending 20 minutes watching a video, reading a book, or like, is that part of a daily routine or weekly routine? Or what do you recommend that I got a crazy busy life and you're saying I got to carve out time for personal development? How do I make that happen?
Yeah, I think the journey of the self is the most important. We both think that. And if you're spending, 8 to 10 hours a day on work that either you're not passionate about or you are passionate about, hopefully you are passionate about it, then you can spend at least an hour on yourself. And I think it doesn't have to be a morning routine. For a lot of people it is, because get it done in the morning, you don't have to worry about it. But some people are more active in the evenings. So know when your time is. That's the first thing. Know when you are most focused, most creative, and most alive. Some people are night owls. Do it at night. If you're a morning person, do it in the morning. And for us, we love to mix breath, because again, most people don't know how to breathe. And this sounds so simple. Most people are like, yeah, okay, breath, whatever. The minute you tap into the power of your breath, you are literally tapping into the life force energy that is life.
Why don't we do it now? Teach me how to breathe.
What's that?
Teach us how to breathe.
All right, you want to know? All right,
Let's
so we're going to show you how to center. You're standing up, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm going to stand up. So center, put your finger, your thumb in your belly button.
Okay, which one? Does it matter?
Yeah, just your thumb in your belly button. And then wherever your pinky finger falls, that is the center point of your body. So where your hand is, you want to breathe into that space, and that is called your center. That is your center point. So breathe into it so that your stomach expands.
You want to try to look pregnant.
Yeah, so I'll do it.
All right, okay, good.
So see how it's moving?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to teach you how to stand in a grounded position. So feet shoulder width apart.
Shoulders up and back.
Yeah, shoulders up and back. So like
jaw released.
Jaw released here, so that the air is completing through. Because most people with stress, they lock jaw and they hold all the energy in.
Okay.
So with your mouth slightly open, just keep breathing into that space, knees slightly bent. Breathing into that space. Now feel how much choice you have in movement. You're grounded, but you can move, right?
Yeah.
If my feet were close together, I can't do that. I'm gonna fall over. So this is the physical metaphor for what's happening in your life. When your feet are in a grounded position, you're in your physical center, you've relaxed your jaw, you're actually creating the space for full range of movement without moving. That's when you become like Neo in the Matrix, right? When you're grounded and fully centered, you have space and you have choice. So we do centering, that exercise. When we first started doing it and first started learning breath work, we put little centering reminders in our phone every hour. So we'd be like at our computer, working on something, building out our business, centering alarm would go off. We would just stop in our chair, reset our bodies, drop our breath, drop our jaw, recenter. Now it's a practice for us. We probably center 3,000 times a day. And it's so interesting because we teach this in our workshops. And when people come in day one, they don't know how to center. They come up in front of the room and they're completely like nervous and scratching their head and doing weird things with their bodies. Day two, they walk out and they're like, hi, here's who I am. Here's what I'm committed to. Here's my vision. And it's all because of breath. Literally. It's the simplest thing, but it's everything.
Yeah, but there's also more to that because we go into some really deep stuff. And that's one of the things that everybody gets to understand is the body is a living library. Mm-hmm. It's storing all of your traumas, everything you've ever been through is happening in the body. And so what tends to happen is people are unaware because they can't see themselves. They can't see themselves when they are in fight, flight, freeze, or appease, as we have added in there. And so the breath, yes, and cleaning up your own consciousness by facing off with the parts of yourself that you've been hiding from. Mm-hmm. That's the work, especially that work that most people aren't willing to do, but those who do it are the ones who experience the most freedom.
Yeah, because they clear space for more to come in. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much crap they're holding on to. Even simple, small things from childhood, like you were told to shut up when you were singing when you were 8 years old, so now you don't fully use your voice. There's so many small little traumas that happen throughout our lives that are actually in the way of us fully leading.
I like it. I like it. More questions coming up. Can you expand on the topic of consistency? How do I stay consistent in my actions? What do you think?
Yeah, here's a simple answer. Just do it, right? Like consistency, it is literally the game changer for everyone. Like people come to us and say, I want to build a tribe like you guys have built. I want to build a business like you guys have built. We have been consistently in the gym on our own consciousness and in the gym building our business every single day for the last decade, and people want it overnight. And it's the consistent action that produces a result. So how do you be more consistent? You schedule it in, you make it non-negotiable, you get over your reasons and you get unreasonable and make it happen no matter what, even when you don't feel like it. Like we're up at 7:30 in the morning for this call. I was up at 7 yesterday. We do an online mastermind program with our people here in Australia. Once we get back in LA, we're up at 3 a.m. in the morning to do their calls. Get unreasonable. Do whatever it takes to make it happen. And most people are unwilling to do that.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'll add to that is celebrate when you are. Mm-hmm. Because what you appreciate appreciates. What you celebrate gets repeated. And so one of the things, and I get it, because I would be the person hearing this and going, okay, consistency, but like, how the hell do I do it? Well, whatever you practice more of, you get more of. So if you are practicing micro wins, small wins, every time you do a small win, every time you do and be what you say you would do and be, every single time, celebrate that. Take a moment, stop, and just go, wow, today, I sent every email that I said I would, or at least half of them. Wow. Today, I reached out to my mom and I told her I loved her. Wow. Today, I did my bookkeeping, which I have been hating.
Avoiding.
Wow.
You're like me.
Yeah. So now I get to celebrate that. And I don't mean celebrate it by going and watching porn or like drinking and all of that stuff, because those also are habits. And here's the thing. There are certain habits, and we've been talking about the 5 success habits, and there's 2 more to go, but there are certain habits that are counter productive to success habits. One being alcohol and vices that we use to numb ourselves out. A lot of people are trying to avoid life.
Yeah.
And life is just life. It's impartial. It's not promised that it's always going to be good, because good and bad are mental constructs. They are not true with a capital T.
Yeah.
Right and wrong, good and bad, these are things. Right in Australia is wrong, could be wrong in Pakistan. Like, it's all of that is up to the eye of the beholder. But the process that a lot of people find themselves in is they're hiding from themselves.
Yeah. And the minute stuff comes up and the minute life gets tough, a lot of people go to their numbing agents, whether it be TV or scrolling through social media or porn or food or alcohol, whatever it might be.
Swiping through Tinder.
People are numbing
Bumble.
themselves out with these distractions. And then we wonder why we're not achieving the life that we want. It's because we're completely distracted and shut off from who we really are. And that brings us into the fourth step, which is truly owning who you are. And that means all of it. Not just like, oh, I'm going to own that I'm all your good traits and, list your good traits. I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. It's, I'm going to own who I am. And that includes all the things that I've been resisting for years. That includes all the things that I've been afraid of, that I've been running from. It's owning your totality and accepting your totality and then living from that totality. Because most people are trying to be somebody. They're trying to be somebody else. They're trying to be Evan, they're trying to be Preston, they're trying to be Alexi, they're trying to be the person, Gary Vee, they're trying to be somebody that they see online, so I got to do it like they do it. Mm-hmm. And they're missing the point. The minute you become yourself, you actually become unique. You actually become worth getting to know, because you're different from the rest of the sheeple out there. And most people, they miss this. Well, in my attempt to try and be somebody, you've missed the point and you've lost your uniqueness. And when you own your totality, you become something really interesting. And that's what people don't get, especially in this internet culture of comparison and looking at so-and-so online. And the minute you drop into the self, you win. You win.
I like the sheeple comment. That was good. I'm curious for you guys. So like, you're both, you're a couple, you're in the business, you're both delivering the training, you're both on this call. How do you guys split up the content, and like, who's better at what, and how do you share the delivery? Because this is great. Like, we asked a question, you're both giving an answer, but I'm curious, what are the strengths that you feel like you both bring, and maybe the weaknesses too, to your seminars, to your events, to the content that you're creating?
Yeah, that's a tricky thing, because it's always moving, always changing. Yeah. One of the, and full transparency, that definitely comes up for us because we're both loaded weapons. Yeah. We're both A-type personalities. And so I even in this call, I watch my ego flare up and want to like, oh, she answered twice and I didn't, like, and like, so what?
Yeah, it happens.
So what? For us, it's what are we here for? Yeah. And the answer to that all day, every day is service. And so I could give two, whether it's her answering all the questions or me answering them or whatever. It's less about that and more about what are we here for? And so sometimes one of us gets on fire. Mm-hmm. And at that point, sometimes the other ego flares a second, and then we recognize it and then go right back to what is here. Yeah. What is the point of this? The point of this is to serve people. And so if Alexi is on fire, then she gets to stay on fire and I get to hold space, because here's the thing that's tricky about our society. Everybody wants to be LeBron James. Yeah. Everybody wants to be Oprah Winfrey. Right? But there's a way to do that by just holding space, right? Just being your loving self. It's not about words. We get it so confused. We think it's, do, have, be. But the truth is it's be, do, have. And so in the beingness, I can still be a space for transformation, personal development, and for people to see that when you amplify your love, you automatically amplify your lives without saying a damn word.
Yeah, and that's real leadership. Like, we have a leadership test in our program where people don't even know what's happening. And it's awesome. And what happens is, it's for us, we're kind of sitting on the sidelines and waiting to see what happens, because chaos always ensues. And then leadership starts to emerge. And we start to watch the different types of leadership. There's always the bullheaded leader who's like, I've got the loudest voice, listen to me, I'm going to control this situation. And then there's the leader who's the quiet one, who's actually empowering others to lead and to do what needs to be done to get the job done as a team. And that, in our definition, is what true leadership is allowing others to rise into their leadership. So in terms of the two of us, I definitely have some strengths. He definitely has some strengths. Our brains think a lot differently. However, it comes out very similarly. We're both extremely passionate. We both, put up everything into our work. And
we're around each other all the damn time. So of course we talk the same.
And we're studying the same stuff and reading the same books, and we have the same mentors. So for us, the container is the same, but the way we show up in the container can be very different. Yeah. And the way we think is very different. And it complements each other. And I think that's why we work so well together, because I can be very structured and organized and rational, and I can take something that's really big out here and I can bring it down and synthesize it and chunk it down and make it deliverable. Preston is really big vision and can take it out here and has me outside of the box. And it's really cool because that complements each other. And our weaknesses, where I'm weak, he's strong. Where he's weak, I'm strong. And where we're weak, we're working on developing and bringing those up. So it really is, like he said, it's always flowing and it's constantly a practice. But at the end of the day, our leadership is about empowering others to rise. And if he's risen in a moment and needs to serve in that moment, then I'm just here holding space, and that's my leadership.
I like it. That could be your next book or workshop or event, or couples trying to be entrepreneurs. It's a huge challenge, like how to work with your wife or your husband in a business, and it just leads to a lot of issues. So that might, if you launch that program, we might have some clients for you.
Perfect.
And what's step number 5? The fifth habit is what?
Woo! Have a blast.
Yeah.
Fifth habit is have fun. We've gotten so caught up thinking that this thing needs to be so damn serious, but for us, it's like you get to have fun. You get to have fun. The more fun you have in this process, the more of service you are to the planet. And, to us, it's a crime against humanity every day, every moment, every minute that you hoard your gift and think that you need to be all damn serious. Like, it's the process. It's the process and the product. Every mountain you climb and get to the top of that mountain and make that million or make that 6 figures or whatever the hell you want to do, every time you get to the top, all you're going to do is celebrate for a minute and then set out for the next mountain.
Yes.
So if we know that the human spirit is always going to have new desires.
Always.
And so if you are not having fun in that process, then you've missed 90% of life.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think, most people are struggling to get there, and subconsciously it's in an attempt to kind of beat death. Well, if I become worthy, if I become significant in my lifetime, then I'll leave a legacy so that I don't truly die. Right? Now, this is getting really philosophical, but most people are dead right now. They're literally dead inside. They're death before death happens. And that is the ultimate death, is to be dead while you're here. We see so many people, especially entrepreneurs, who are, sucked into this hustle without heart mentality, and they're hustling for this thing, and they're hating their life. They're hating their life. And we remind people, we work really hard. We hustle really hard, but you better believe we play hard. Like, we play really hard. We travel to places all over the world. We're constantly, having a blast and goofing on each other. And we're just not taking this whole thing so seriously. Yes, it's serious because we're out to change the world, and that's a pretty serious mission, but it's not that serious, right? It's like the gigantic paradox and cosmic joke of the universe. It's serious, but it's not that serious. So make sure you're alive in the process.
Because you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah.
And so we can't change the world and ask the world to, step into joy if I'm not living from joy. Mm-hmm. And so our job is to fill our own cups and give from the overflow. The overflow is where all the magic is.
Yeah.
And so
I like it. I like that. Okay, rapid fire. The 5 habits. What are they?
Okay, so you always have a choice, number 1, and that means awareness first. Step number 2 is be radically responsible. Step number
3 is aligned, committed action.
Step number 4 is doing it from the totality, owning who you are.
And step number 5 is woohoo! Have a blast.
That's really like 80s dance move.
I like the sharing of responsibilities on the points too. That was good, guys. That was good. Cool. Listen, tons of questions coming in still. I hogged a lot of them because I was genuinely curious and really appreciate the vibe you guys put off and all the work you do. Probably the most common question being asked is, who are these guys? How do I find out more about them? So, I mean, you're in Australia now, but if people want to find your book or they want to see your courses or what's the next step? Where do you hang out? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so our book is Now or Never, Your Epic Life in 5 Steps, and we deep dive and give you guys a ton of tools in this book. But if you want to find us online, go to alexiandpreston.com. You can find Preston at Preston Smiles, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can find me at Alexi Panos, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Be sure to Google stalk us because we are all up in the social media business.
I love it. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Have an amazing day in Australia. Thank you guys so much for watching. Continue to believe, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
Woo!